For months, the world's most powerful telescopes have been tracking a silent wanderer, an interstellar visitor unlike anything humanity has ever encountered. Astronomers called it 3I Atlas, a name that now feels almost prophetic. It drifted in from beyond the Milky Way, crossing a void so vast that it defies imagination. For weeks, it moved quietly through the darkness, a cold, indifferent traveler. Scientists expected it to pass by and fade into memory. But then, something changed. When 3I Atlas reached the inner solar system and began to curve toward the sun, everything we thought we knew about space broke apart. Its light dimmed, then flared. Its form, once stable, shifted in ways that no model could predict. The instruments monitoring it began to record patterns that made no mathematical sense. For the first time in decades, even the most rational scientists went silent. And as the data streamed in, one question began to whisper across observatories worldwide. What exactly are we looking at? Spain's twin 2-meter telescopes were the first to capture it in detail. Over 159 exposures, astronomers watched as something impossible unfolded. A thin jet of material erupted from 3I Atlas, not away from the sun, as every comet in history behaves, but toward it. It was as though the object was resisting the sun's pull, pushing back against its gravity, its heat, its dominance. When the images reached NASA and ESA teams, disbelief turned into quiet alarm. Hubble confirmed it. So did Keck Observatory in Hawaii. The tail of 3I Atlas was reversed, like smoke streaming against the wind. The phenomenon wasn't just unusual, it broke the laws of solar physics. Radiation pressure should have scattered any dust outward. Instead, the material seemed immune, or perhaps even self-directed. Some experts suggested an exotic composition, metals or elements never cataloged before. Others went further, daring to whisper theories that felt almost forbidden. Maybe the tail wasn't natural at all. Maybe it was an emission, a controlled output, like exhaust. As more readings came in, the mystery deepened. The mass-to-velocity ratio didn't match. The object's motion suggested it was far lighter than its apparent size implied, almost as if it were hollow. Its rotation was slow, too slow for its structure to remain stable if it were an ordinary rock or ice body. Yet 3I Atlas held together perfectly, defying every known mechanical law of celestial motion. Researchers stared at their screens, running models that broke one after another. Someone in a lab in Berlin muttered, "It's not a comet." A physicist in Tokyo countered softly, "Then what is it?" Across continents, theories began to splinter. Spectral analysis only added fuel to the fire. 3I Atlas was rich in nickel and iron, denser and more metallic than any comet or asteroid known. Embedded within were faint traces of cyanide compounds, rare even in interstellar space. To many, it began to look less like a natural object and more like something built, something old, something that had crossed the stars with purpose. And then came Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb. Known for his bold thinking, Loeb proposed a new way to quantify the unexplainable, the OEP scale, Object of Extraterrestrial Probability, a framework to measure how likely an interstellar object might be of non-natural origin. On that scale, a normal comet like 2I Borisov would score a harmless 0. A confirmed alien probe, a 10.
When the calculations were done, 3I Atlas ranked 7. And for the first time in recorded history, the scientific community collectively admitted, we might not be alone. Loeb's conclusion hit the scientific world like a thunderclap. He placed 3I Atlas at level 4 on his newly proposed OEP scale, an object exhibiting multiple persistent anomalies with no satisfactory natural explanation, even after exhaustive analysis. In plain terms, that meant a 40% probability that 3I Atlas wasn't natural. Not a comet, not a fragment of some distant star, but something built. The number alone, 40%, set off a storm. In university halls, research forums, and late-night live streams, debates erupted. Some called it sensationalism. Others whispered that Loeb might be right, again. After all, he was the first to suggest that Oumuamua, our first interstellar visitor, might have been artificial. And now, with 3I Atlas displaying even stranger behavior, people began to wonder if we were about to confirm the second. Only this time, the evidence was undeniable. Then, as curiosity reached fever pitch, 3I Atlas disappeared. Not destroyed, not exploded, just gone. As it slipped behind the sun, entering what astronomers call solar conjunction, it vanished from every telescope on Earth. No signal, no reflection, nothing. For weeks, the world waited. It felt like the universe had dimmed the lights, pulling the curtain on a mystery that had just begun. Inside observatories, scientists sat in tense silence. NASA's budget delays meant public updates slowed to a trickle. The European Space Agency locked its latest findings behind classified embargoes, and so speculation took over. Online forums buzzed with theories, some hopeful, others apocalyptic. Meanwhile, orbital simulations began to paint a new picture. Once 3I Atlas emerged from behind the sun, it would cut directly across Jupiter's orbital path, a rare and unnerving trajectory. It wouldn't collide, but it would pass dangerously close to ESA's JUICE mission and NASA's Europa Clipper, two probes currently studying Jupiter's icy moons. If they crossed through its ion tail, they could finally collect direct samples, the first tangible proof of what 3I Atlas truly was. But not everyone was optimistic. Some warned that the strange, anti-correlated jet might reactivate when the object returned to sunlight. If it did, it could unleash electromagnetic bursts unlike anything ever recorded. A few theorists even dared to suggest that once hidden behind the sun, 3I Atlas might change course entirely. If that happened, it wouldn't just challenge our understanding of gravity or motion, it would rewrite what we believe about intelligence itself. Then, after 6 long weeks, the silence broke. All across the world, observatories turned their gaze toward the predicted coordinates. NASA, ESA, the Keck. Even private space arrays on the moon and in orbit joined in. One by one, the systems locked onto the target. And what appeared on their screens defied every expectation. 3I Atlas had not faded. It was brighter. So bright that its albedo, the amount of light it reflected, had jumped by nearly 400%. Its surface gleamed like a mirror in the dark, far more reflective than any known celestial body. But even stranger, its temperature hadn't changed. It wasn't heating up, it wasn't cooling down. It was stabilized. Something inside it was controlling the energy flow, absorbing and releasing heat in perfectly synchronized cycles, as if maintaining an internal equilibrium. Artificial? Engineered. The thought hung unspoken in every control room. And then came the most haunting discovery yet. The tail that had once defied the sun was gone. In its place, a faint, pulsing ultraviolet beam extending sideways into the void. It wasn't random, it wasn't chaotic, it was steady, measured, intentional. Telescopes everywhere began recording. Each pulse came precisely every 247 seconds, no drift, no error. Whatever 3I Atlas was doing, it wasn't drifting anymore. It was broadcasting. Within just a few days, teams at the European Southern Observatory and MIT started working frantically to decode the ultraviolet pulses from 3I Atlas. At first, the data looked meaningless, just erratic bursts flickering between two energy levels. But then, buried deep in the noise, one analyst noticed something that froze everyone in the control room. When they ran the signal through a compression algorithm, the pattern sharpened into prime numbers: 2, 3, 5, 7. Over and over again, repeating for hours before looping back. That realization hit like thunder. Prime numbers are a mathematical fingerprint, often proposed by SETI scientists as the simplest way an intelligent civilization could signal we are here. The odds of such a sequence forming by chance are infinitesimally small, practically zero. Yet there it was, emanating steadily from 3I Atlas like a deliberate knock on the cosmic door. The revelation split the global scientific community in two. NASA called for caution, insisting it might just be a coincidence, maybe a quirk of rotation or sunlight scattering off reflective surfaces. But Avi Loeb and his Harvard team saw it differently. He stepped up to the microphones and said what everyone else was afraid to. This isn't an astronomical anomaly anymore. This is communication. Almost immediately, smaller observatories in Japan, Chile, and South Africa confirmed the data independently. Whatever 3I Atlas was, it wasn't tumbling through space like debris. It was responding, behaving more like a system, executing a protocol triggered by its interaction with the sun. So, NASA made a bold decision. They reoriented the James Webb Space Telescope toward 3I Atlas, calibrating its instruments for hyperspectral imaging. The results that came back didn't just challenge astronomy, they shattered it. Beneath the comet's mirror-like surface, Webb detected a geometric lattice, an intricate honeycomb of hexagonal plates running along its rotational axis. Not cracks, not fractures, but design. Each hexagon was identical, perfect in proportion, perfectly aligned, reflecting light in intervals that followed mathematical precision. Spectral analysis showed the structure was made of a nickel-titanium alloy, purer than anything found in nature. For the first time, humanity stared at evidence of something engineered. Further readings from Webb's NIRSpec instrument confirmed it. The outer layer wasn't static, it was adjusting itself in real time, subtly altering polarization to reduce glare. This wasn't a comet, it was a craft, built to survive the interstellar abyss, designed to hide in plain sight. But one haunting question remained: where was the pilot? Then, just as excitement reached its peak, the pulses stopped. For 12 hours, 3I Atlas went completely silent. No radiation, no emissions, nothing. Every telescope watched, holding its breath. And then, precisely at 2:17 UTC, it moved. Its trajectory shifted, not from gravity, not from solar wind, a clean, precise course correction, a 0.09 degree change in vector. That might sound small, but for something that size, it was monumental. No natural object can alter direction like that without propulsion. It was steering. Accelerating at 14 meters per second squared, 3I Atlas turned away from Jupiter's orbit and began heading toward the heliopause, the edge of the solar system, the edge of the sun's domain. Only it wasn't random. Its new trajectory lined up perfectly with the same coordinates from which it had entered, as if it were retracing its path home. And then, just before it slipped back into the dark, it emitted one final ultraviolet beam. This time, it wasn't a sequence of primes. It was a single, continuous signal lasting exactly 13 minutes and 37 seconds, long enough to record, analyze, and archive.
At first, it looked like static, random noise. But when the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics applied Fourier transformations to the data, the noise took shape. The beam wasn't random. It carried structure. A pattern of binary modulations, too clean, too deliberate to be a product of nature. And the pattern repeated every 13 minutes and 37 seconds, mirroring the pulse's duration itself, as if time had been woven into the message. Whatever 3i Atlas had done, it hadn't broadcast a message into space. It had sent one back to us. It wasn't just transmitting, it was reflecting, a mirror signal tuned to the very frequencies our instruments were using. 3i Atlas wasn't speaking into the void, it was listening back. When the decoded data was finally reconstructed into a visual, the room fell silent. On every monitor bloomed a three-dimensional fractal, layer upon layer of interlocking hexagons spiraling inward, identical to the internal lattice the James Webb Telescope had glimpsed beneath its surface. At the center of that pattern pulsed a ratio, 1.618, the golden constant, the fingerprint of nature itself. To biologists, it looked like the algorithm of life, the rhythm that builds every cell. To physicists, it was an equation for perfect symmetry, the balance of matter and gravity. And to everyone in that lab, it felt like a signature, the universe signing its name in geometry. Governments tried to seal the discovery, but the data had already escaped. Amateur astronomers and independent labs began picking up faint echoes of the same pulse woven through the solar wind, as if the transmission had rippled across the heliosphere itself, imprinting space like a memory. Each attempt to replay or re-render the data led to new anomalies. The structure shifted, just slightly each time. It was evolving, adapting, as though aware of being watched. One researcher whispered what no one else dared to say aloud. It's reacting to us. Soon after, Avi Loeb revised his OEP scale. For the first time in recorded history, he gave an object a level 9, one breath below confirmed extraterrestrial technology. His report was blunt. 3i Atlas exhibits controlled propulsion, directed emission, and information symmetry. The probability of a natural origin is indistinguishable from zero. But his closing paragraph was what haunted readers most. He wrote that perhaps 3i Atlas was never meant to be a probe or a ship, but a messenger, a vessel carrying the imprint of an intelligence older than any civilization we could imagine. Then, on September 21st, a ripple shook the cosmos. Every deep space array tracking 3i Atlas recorded a sudden spike in the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang. For an instant, that ancient whisper of creation resonated at the same frequency ratio as the final Atlas pulse. The universe itself had answered back. And just as quickly as it came, the signal vanished. 3i Atlas slipped beyond the heliopause, back into the interstellar dark, leaving behind only fragments of data, a code no one has yet broken, but one every scientist agrees is intentional. 3i Atlas didn't simply visit, it marked us. Proof that the universe is not silent, that consciousness may be written into its very design, and that perhaps we were never alone to begin with. One astronomer summed it up best in his final report. Maybe we were never meant to discover it. Maybe it discovered us. So if this story makes you wonder what's really out there, don't look away. Keep your eyes on the sky, because when 3i Atlas speaks again, you'll want to be here to hear the echo first.